Mr. Aiyar, it's good to have you with us. Clearly, we are close to election time, and the war of words seems to have started off in full measure. To be able to see that getting played out, say on the web, on social media, has the way that politics is fought today, has that changed?
Well, it was, I think, about 40 years ago, 35 years ago, that Richard Nixon said, if you can't stand the heat, then get out of the kitchen. Politics is about polemics, and it is necessary to clarify your position in absolutely straight language. And I've never believed in mincing one's words. And usually it's people who are not politicians who come into politics who wonder whether, a gentlemanly word here might not be more effective than thundering from a platform. But thundering from platforms is the mode of politics. And at least we haven't descended to the level of Gladstone and Disraeli, because their language against each other was very, very sharp. When Gladstone said, you're going to die of either the politics or the gallows, Disraeli replied, that depends on whether I embrace your mistress or your politics. So if that kind of language is permissible in the mother of all parliaments, I think this getting all excited over the war of words is hypocritical, because the worst and most vicious users of words are the journalists. And you look at these TV anchors, especially your Bombay-based anchor, and on an evening by evening basis, you get this total prejudice being projected in what I regard as an utterly obscene language, because the assumption is made that whomever is attacking that evening is being proved guilty beyond redemption. And that's the kind of thing which I disapprove of. So I do find it rich that the guys who are doing the abusing on a daily basis suddenly get up and say, no, we must have very respectable politics and we shouldn't allow words like this to come out. The issue in this election, above all, is central to our nationhood. There is a challenge to the nature of our nationhood. Are we a secular country? Or, as the Hindutva philosophy says, are we a Hindu country? It was Savarkar who invented this word, and because he was quite a master of the English language, he translated it himself. He translated Hindutva into the word Hindudom, saying specifically that like Christendom in the Christian countries, we should have Hindudom here, and the Hindus must rule. So we have a challenge between two alternative views of our nationhood. And if we are not going to use strong language about that, then what are we going to use strong language about? So FDI? FII? I mean, these are all Bombay thoughts. The country at large wishes to live in peace. And therefore, these issues are very important. Sorry.
No, absolutely. No, why I'm asking you this is because this entire festival is of the cultural variety. And to be able to have a discourse about words and culture and polemics within the political context, there seems to be a little bit of a discord over there, is what I'm thinking. But of course, you've been a man of word.
I may be invited here. I am a politician, but I think I've been invited here because I've used a few words. But in every TV program, whenever I demolish Ravi Shankar Prasad or any of these characters, their immediate complaint is, Bhai Sahab, ऐसे शब्दों का इस्तेमाल आपको श्रेय नहीं पहुंचाता है. Rubbish. The English language is rich in abuse, and you can use it. And it's possible for us to attend a literary fest consisting of non-politicians who are disapproving of politicians. But if you call in a politician, I'm afraid I don't know how to use your polite, civilized, cultured language. I only know my own language.
That's right. But when you write your books, tell us about that. How does the discourse change? We've seen
at all.
It hasn't.
It doesn't change at all.
When you talk
I
about,
asked Mr. Advani years ago. I said, you've said in such and such a speech that all Muslims should regard themselves as Hindu Muslims, and all Christians should regard themselves as Hindu Christians. So what do you call yourself? Are you a Hindu or are you a Hindu Hindu? I'm still waiting for a reply. I said to him that you're an 85% Indian. I am 100% Indian. That's the difference between us. So this argument is fundamental. It has been going on since Mahatma Gandhi's time. And Mahatma Gandhi's answer to the factionalism of some people in the Congress party, don't forget that several leaders of the Congress party, Madan Mohan Malaviya, Lala Lajpat Rai, have been presidents of the Hindu Mahasabha. So there was a spectrum of views inside the Congress. So in the first instance, Gandhi had to work against those in the Congress party who were inclined towards Hindudom. And then after the partition of the country, the choice before us was starkly put that Pakistan is a Muslim country, ergo India is a Hindu country. And the answer that, unfortunately, Gandhiji didn't stay with us for very long, but Panditji fought this battle for a secular India for the 17 years that he was Prime Minister of India. And there's a little sentence of his which I would like to quote for the benefit of your viewers. After he had defeated the challenge within the Congress party of Purushottam Das Tandon, he attended a rally on Gandhi Jayanti, 2nd October 1951, on the Ramlila grounds. And it was reported in the Hindustan Times, and therefore I don't have it in Hindi, I only have it in English, that he said that if any man raises his hand against another in the name of religion, I shall fight him till the last breath of my life, whether from inside the government or outside. That was the credo on which he entered the first general elections of 1952, where every voter had a living memory of partition which had happened 5 years earlier. And he said that I don't care whether I win or lose, but I'm going to make no compromises with communalism. I think the stage has been reached in 2014, where we have to go back to what I have called secular fundamentalism.
Fair enough. But that's my question to you, that we are dipping perhaps too much into history to be able to fight the politics of today. A forward-looking nation is looking too much into its past to be able to look at what you want to do next.
If a forward-looking nation doesn't look to its past, it's going to become an unanchored nation. It's going to get adrift. Ours is not, when I talk of the past, I'm not talking about the last 50 years. I'm talking about the last 5,000 years. I'm talking about a religion which probably came into India from outside, but whether it did or not, says in the opening verse of the Rig Veda, after describing the beauties of nature, it says, and who created all this? And answers its own question, saying only he knows. And then the punchline, and perhaps he knows not.
No,
These are the origins of what we are. And if you think that because I have cited the past, you didn't want me to use ugly words, so I couldn't cite the present or the future. But this is the battle. It's a battle that arises not out of politics, but out of our understanding of what kind of a nation we are.
My simple question is, why is this being fought between a Nehru and a Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and not much about a Rahul Gandhi versus a Narendra Modi?
It's a real joke. I didn't mention Sardar Patel, you did. And why did you mention it? Because
BJP has got us thinking.
Because some character called Narendra Modi has mentioned it. The chap is such an illiterate. And sorry, you're now into my level of vocabulary. He's such an illiterate, he doesn't know the difference between Shah Prasad Mukherjee and Krishna Shyam. And the gap between the two of them is 50 years. And he doesn't know that Shah Prasad Mukherjee was the founder of his own party. And you're asking me to accept his view of Sardar Patel? Read Rajmohan Gandhi's biography of Sardar Patel, in which he explains how when Nehru found that the Nehru-Liaquat Pact, which I think is one of the greatest instruments of diplomacy I've ever come across as a professional diplomat, was not approved of by the Congress party, he went and wrote out his resignation letter. And Sardar Patel came to him and said, take it back, the country needs you. This is the man who would automatically have succeeded Jawaharlal Nehru. And he refused to allow Jawaharlal Nehru to resign, and therefore he denied himself the opportunity of becoming the Prime Minister, because whatever his differences on specific aspects of policy there might have been between him and Jawaharlal, they were colleagues, they were comrades, and this attempt to steal Sardar Patel away from us for narrow sectarian purposes. If you think you can look forward, without looking back into these things, I'm sorry, your forward, is a dawn without a previous dusk.
Mr. Aiyar, the fact remains that the BJP seems to have gone all out with its social media awareness campaign.
I think,
I think at some level,
I
and
think
this is
people
more
who
about
look at-
how they're doing it.
I
want
people-
you to address that question about how they're going about doing it.
I think people who deal with Twitter are twits. I cannot think of intelligent people with something real to say, saying everything they have to do in 140 characters.
That's how the youth are doing it. Mr.
Well,
Aiyar.
they can do it. I've also seen the results of that because I've also got kids of that age. And I see what they say on, there's a very thoughtful article produced by my daughter, and people are giving their comments in 3 words and 4 words. Now, I don't know that anything on Twitter can reach my constituency of Mailadurai because it's not there in Tamil. I don't think anything on Facebook influences anybody in my constituency. Our country is not a country with a presidential system.
Are they reading books, Mr. Aiyar?
Pardon?
Are they reading books in your constituency?
Yeah, they're certainly reading books. And their books are all about Karunanidhi and Jayalalitha. They're not about Modi. You see, this election is being falsely portrayed by the BJP as some kind of a contest between the BJP and the Congress. But the BJP doesn't exist in more than half the states of India. Is the BJP there in Kerala? Is it there in Tamil Nadu? Is it there in Andhra Pradesh? Is it there in Orissa? Is it there in West Bengal? Is it there in Assam? Is it there in Mizoram? Is it there in Tripura? Is it there in Nagaland? Even in UP and Bihar, the principal contenders are non-BJP people. These chaps have to steal their clothes. They're a party of the Anish in the West, along with a little enclave called Nariman Point. This is where people are rah-rah, because he sells L&T land at 1 rupee a square foot, which he gives to his own small industrialists at 700 rupees a square foot. This is in the Hazira Special Industrialization Zone. The backing, I'm sorry you got Tata written all over behind you, so maybe it's extremely unpolite to mention this. But just think of what is the extent of subsidies of various kinds given by the Gujarat government to the nano plant. One estimate in the Economic and Political Weekly, I'm not talking about some rag, I'm talking about the Economic and Political Weekly, is a highly respectable, if left-wing publication, is that it amounts to 33,000 crore rupees. And that every nano car contains a contribution from the people in government of Gujarat of 60,000 rupees. So if you are going to favor Nariman Point in this manner, no wonder they're going rah, 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 rah.
You tell me, you are here, Mr. Aiyar, to talk about if India has blown it, which I believe now is more a topic of India has blown it.
Yeah,
Where do you
I
really stand? You have been given a choice of which side you can debate
wasn't.
on. Oh,
I thought I was being asked to speak in favor. Then when suddenly the subject was changed from has India blown it to India has blown it, I had to send Anil Dharkar an emergency email saying, am I speaking for or against the motion? I said, I can do either.
Forget
and
what
he
they've been-
replied that you're speaking against
no, but
me.
tell me, what would you choose and why?
Oh, I would choose the crossbenchers because I don't believe that India has blown it, but I think India is in danger of blowing it if it forgets the heritage that you want us to forget. If you want us to only look ahead as if there is no past, then I'm afraid we've really
Is
blown
Rahul
it.
Gandhi ahead, is the question.
Is Rahul Gandhi
The
ahead?
future. If you're going to look ahead, is Rahul Gandhi there?
I don't know how to answer that question because I have a bare acquaintance with Rahul Gandhi. I have met him maybe half a dozen times in the last 9 years. So I don't know what his agenda is.
The next 5 years of the Congress, if we are to be in that position to look ahead, what are we looking at?
I hope continuity will not be forgotten. There are 4 fundamental principles which I am expecting to elaborate in my speech this evening, of democracy, which requires deepening and widening through Panchayat Raj. And there I believe, because I have interacted with him on that Rahul Gandhi understands it much, much more than Narendra Modi does. Narendra Modi was one of 2 or 3 chief ministers who refused to let me come as Minister of Panchayat Raj to examine Panchayat Raj in his state. Everywhere else I was welcome, Congress, non-Congress government. Gujarat, no, 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 no. Despite the fact that Bhupen Singh Chudasama, who was my counterpart in Gujarat, and a very good friend with whom we worked very closely. He kept asking but was refused permission. So as far as I know, the person who really understands the significance of Panchayat Raj is Rahul Gandhi, especially when it comes to vis-a-vis Modi. The second, a very, very important principle is secularism, of which I think Rahul, like most of us, like most Indians, is the embodiment, and Mr. Modi is not. Third, I believe in socialism. Now, Rahul doesn't accept that word, but if you put it in other words, do we prioritize the promotion of prosperity over the alleviation of poverty, especially when there is a clash between the two? I think Rahul's answer would be very clear, and I think the reason why Modi is such a hit in Nariman Point is that his answer is very clear. He knows that it's only the big capitalists of India who are going to save India because they're the ones who are funding him. And when it comes to our foreign policy, I believe that I not only believe in non-alignment, or rather the principles of non-alignment, because that word was invented in a period where the world was divided into two alignments. The key thing about non-alignment is independence in foreign policy. And I believe that while we are able from time to time to demonstrate our independence in foreign policy, when it comes to relations with our neighbors, I am not in agreement with what has happened. I believe in dialogue, and I believe that you can never solve a problem by not talking about it. I don't guarantee that by talking about a problem you'll solve it, but I do guarantee that the only way of ever getting to a solution is by interacting. And you need to interact not at a time when things are hunky-dory. You need to interact when things are very, very bad.
And things are very, very bad. And my last question to you is this, because communication is at the heart of it. BJP seems to have a head start on you as far as the strategy of being able to communicate their ideas, their thoughts go. How are you going to counter it?
They've done a very good job with you. They haven't got through to a single voter in Mailadurai. To the extent that we have to tackle voters like yourself, well, we've got youngsters also who are very good at doing this, and they're doing it. They're doing their job. But it is the issue of mass poverty in India, mass unemployment in India, the fact that India is not shining, and that India will not shine so long as you think that a few headlamps is all that counts in order to get the darkness to go. That's where I think things are going very seriously wrong. I would beg and request that we go back to what Gandhiji said when he was asked, what is your dream of an independent India? His answer has been published in his magazine Young India of the 10th of September 1931. And now you're going to again accuse me of having my eyes at the back of my head. But listen to what he said.
Yeah.
He said, I shall dream of, he said, I shall work for an India in which the poorest shall feel it is their country, in the making of which they have an effective voice. Empowerment of the poor through Panchayati Raj is the big challenge before us. And this is not being understood by too many elements that are too powerful in India. Years ago, I got into great trouble with the Congress Party for saying what I'm going to say to you to conclude this interview. I said, ours is really a democracy. Every 5 years, it is the masses who determine who will run this country. But in between, it is the classes who determine how it shall be run. So I go back to Gandhiji, and when I go back to Gandhiji, I'm going forward to an India which, alas, we might not attain if we don't have the good sense to look back also while we look in front.
We hope for the best for the future, Mr. Aiyar. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you.